Hello, this is Cindy, and I am coming to you from Old Soul Wisdom. And I wanted to do a little different video today. Actually, my guides have been telling me I've been needing to do this, and I've been putting it off. And today is the day. So, I want to talk to you about using a pendulum to connect to your spirit guides. Now, I've been watching several creators on YouTube that use pendulums and watching how they do it. I normally, up until this week, would just ask them yes and no questions, and I would ask them to show me what was yes and what was no before I would begin. Well, first of all, before I begin communicating with them, I ground myself. I put a dome of protection around me, and I ask that only those that are totally aligned with 100% divine light communicate with me. And then I send a dome of protection around myself because you do need to protect yourself from some of these energies. And you want to make sure, I want to make sure the answers that I get are for my highest and greatest good, and also for the highest and greatest good of humanity. So this is my pendulum. This is actually the second pendulum I bought for myself. The first pendulum I can't find. I purchased that. I was learning about crystals, and I have a book on crystals, and I was reading about all the different stones and stuff. So I was looking for a pendulum made out of a certain stone, and I can't remember the name of it because it was so long ago. And I purchased that pendulum based on the type of stone it was. And my guides would never communicate with me through that pendulum. And then I walked into the store, the same store, no intention on buying a pendulum, and this one stuck out to me. Now, this one, as you can see, is made out of glass. I think these are real stones, but I'm pretty sure this and this is made out of glass. And I normally wouldn't purchase anything made out of glass. I want everything to be out of authentic gems, right? And crystals. But this one called to me, and I bought it. And when I got home with it, instantly, I started communicating. My guide started communicating with me, to me, through this. So that's the first thing that you want to do is when you're buying any kind of tool, if it's tarot cards, oracle cards, pendulums, crystals, dowsing rods, whatever, you need to listen here first and know what you're being called to. My first deck of cards, I had been meditating and meditating and meditating for months and going into deep meditations when I first started learning how to meditate. I mean, my meditations would be hours long. And I got an image when I was meditating. And then I got this really strong urge that I needed to buy tarot decks. So me and a friend of mine went to an area where there was multiple shops. There was probably about, 6 or 7 spiritual shops within this town. So we went, and I was going into these shops, and I was looking at all the tarot decks, and I couldn't find anything that resonated with me until we walked into this one shop. And I walked into the shop, and it was actually our last shop we were going to. And their whole section of tarots and oracle decks were in the back of the store. And I walked in, and I went to the back of the store, and this box just stood out, just like popped out. It was like the only thing I could see. First of all, I love the color green. But secondly, one of the images that my guides gave me was the image of this eye. And I was just starting, so I had no clue what that was, but I knew this was the deck I needed to get. And it was an oracle deck and not a tarot deck. I thought I needed to get a tarot deck. Nope, needed to get an oracle deck. So it's really important that you listen to your inner voice. You look for the signs. When I am shown symbols and stuff when I'm meditating, I will instantly try to draw. I'm not an artist, so I don't do a good job at drawing things out that I see. But symbols are easy, right? They're just lines. So I'll draw that stuff out so that I can remember. And that's your guides telling you what you need to get. And they still, to this day, I have all these oracle decks, all these tarot decks. In the last week, this is the deck that they've been wanting me to use to communicate. So I use this to communicate, to get messages from them before I get done working with my pendulum. The other thing is understanding that when you see certain creators pop up on your timeline, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or wherever you're finding your spiritual content, if there's new creators popping up, watch them, because that's your guides telling you need to listen to those guys. You need to see what they're doing. And there was one woman in particular, and I can't remember her name. I've only seen her a couple of her videos in the last week. She does pendulum readings. And she actually, when she's doing her pendulum reading, she's calling in her family, her deceased family. And I thought, wow, I never thought of that. Never thought of communicating with my mom or my dad or my grandparents or my cousins or my aunts or uncles. So last night, I did that. First of all, she has a chart in front of her, so that there's yes and no answers, there's numbers, there's other things on her chart so that she can ask specific questions, and her guides will answer those questions. And for me, I'm more of a type of person that going out and purchasing something like that, it's forcing your guides to answer the way that chart is made out. So I created my own chart. I'm going to hold this up. This is what I created. And I don't know if you see, there's the weeks, 1 through 52. I have the months on here, and I have, I don't know what side. Oh, over here I have 2025, 26, 27, 28, 29. I have percentages, and then I have 1 through 10. Then up here I have my yes and no chart. And the whole thing, I was asking my guides, what do you want me to do? And they insisted I do the 1 to 52, do every week of the year. I don't know why, because I don't really ask those type of questions, but that's what they stated. Then I asked, should I put every month? Yep, I need to put every month. Should I put the next 5 years, including this year, out? Yes. Should I put the percentages? Yes. Should I put 1 through 10? Yes. Should I put my yes and no up at the top? Yes. So everything that I have drawn out here, my guides guided me. This is how they want things answered. Now I had put on the bottom Now, this is just rough draft. I had put rephrase down here, but I also have this circle right here is rephrase. This is how they answer. This is how they tell me they want me to rephrase something. Okay. Um, that's the way they communicate with me. I always ask them so that they've got this chart. I don't have to ask them these questions anymore. But normally at the beginning of my readings, I would say, okay, can you please show me yes? Can you please show me no? Now I don't have to because this is what they've guided me to do. And I know that so when I'm asking a question, I'll say, referring to the chart at the top, can you answer the question of whatever? And they'll answer. And then I'll say, referring to the numbers, to the number of weeks. Can you tell me how many weeks? Are you referring to the month? I kind of tell them where I want them to answer, what chart I want them to answer, so that I have a better idea. But when they point to something, I'm reaffirming. Let's say they point to August, and I'll say, okay, so was that answer August? And they'll say yes or no. I asked them how they liked this chart, how I had it done with the on the bottom of my chart saying rephrase, and they said no, they didn't like it. Okay, so I went through each part of the chart to say, okay, is this okay on the chart? Is this okay? They answered yes to everything except for the phrases at the bottom, the rephrase statement on the bottom of my chart. They didn't want that. They want to answer, they want the rephrase to be them going, in a circle. That's how they wanted that. So they'll guide you. Okay, so you can have complete communication with them. Now, when I went and was speaking to my mom and my dad last night, my dad did not want to talk to me. He wasn't ready to talk to me through the pendulum. So, but he was there, but he didn't want to answer any. My dad was a very hermit, quiet to himself type man. So that makes sense to me. He's just here kind of observing and watching what's going on, and I'm okay with that. I always ask my guides permission. Are you willing to answer questions for me today? Are you willing to answer political questions for me today? Personal questions. I will ask them because sometimes they're not willing to answer those questions. And you don't want to force things on them. So when I was communicating with my mom last night, she didn't want to answer political questions. So I was just asking her questions about me, my life, my hobbies, where things were going. And she was happy to answer those questions, but she didn't want to answer any political questions. I wanted my dad to answer political questions because my dad always followed politics, but I never knew whether he was a Republican or a Democrat. My parents could not vote in this country, in the United States. They were green card holders, so they're here legally, but they couldn't vote. But my dad followed politics all the time. I always remembered, him watching the presidential races and stuff going on. So I thought he would be the person that I would ask political questions to. He didn't want to answer them. And, you know, like with anything else, we have to respect one another, right? So when you're talking with your guides, it's really important to ask them permission. I don't record I have not recorded any of my pendulum readings. I do them on the side. They're for me right now. Maybe eventually one day I will talk about, or I will do pendulum readings. But right now, with what's going on in our country, I think it's just too volatile, whatever. Um, And it's also important to understand that your guides are answering the questions for you and what is best for you. I may come up with a different answer because my guides are answering for me. It's hard for guides to answer for the collective because we each have our own journey. We each have our own path that we're supposed to take. And if that's the case, what the answer is for you, or the best answer for you and your greater good, it is might be different, might be a little different, might be a lot different from what's good for me. So that's why I don't do my pendulum right now, because everything's so volatile that it's just so crazy. I can tell you that it's not going to last long, that things are being worked on, and this is what my guides have been telling me ever since November 5th, is that there's things happening in the background, not here in the not just here in the United States, but around the world, to help protect our democracy. And I know right now it doesn't look like it's being protected. There's reasons things are going on the way they're going on. I don't know why. A lot of readers are saying that it's because his supporters, his the 45 supporters, need to go through certain things to realize the mistakes that they made by voting for him. My experience is they're not learning the lesson. And I really feel that the powers that be that are there to protect our democracy are understanding that they're not going to learn the lesson. And it doesn't matter. They need to step up, and they need to step up really soon to protect our democracy. What the little muskrat is doing with our government computer systems and hacking into our is very, very, very dangerous. The fact that he wants to get into the Treasury Department that controls, the money that comes to, like me, I'm on Social Security, my payment, my husband's payment, Medicare, Medicaid, all that money. Muskrat wants control over it, and he's trying to gain control over it, and it's very dangerous. And I think that that's like a boundary that those that want to protect our democracy aren't willing to cross. They're not willing to allow him to enter those systems. So I'm feeling entertainment purposes only. Entertainment purposes only. I'm feeling that things are going to happen. They're overstepping their boundaries too fast, and they're too arrogant. So that's my feeling. I didn't want to get political, and I don't like getting political on this channel, but I know that there's a lot of people that are really anxious. Understand that the whole purpose behind what they're doing is to get us distracted, to be just constantly throwing bombs at us so we don't know what to focus on. Okay? That's what they're doing. They're throwing things at us at such a rate that we can't catch a ball, and we're anxious, and just we're distracted. That's what they're trying to do. And I watched a video, and I tried tagging the video, but I couldn't because I saw it on a different social media thing, and I'm not very technically. I can manage some things, but what they were saying is we need to find one or two things to focus on. You know, focus on, like for me, it would be Social Security. For you, it might be childcare, or it might be veterans services, or the list goes on. Focus on one or two things and let everybody else focus on those one or two things, because we are all different. What's important to us, right? And put your energy towards those one or two things, and just kind of let the other stuff just kind of roll off your back and over your head and whatever. Um, that's how we survive this. But understand that they're they're not going to let this happen for too long, and that's just kind of what I'm being told by my guides. And I've been, like I said, I've been being told that since the beginning, since the very beginning, that this is something that we have to go through. Timeline wise, I think if we all stay focused on keeping our vibrations high and on the things that are important to us and connecting to our guides, however you need to connect to your guides. For me, it's my pendulum, it's my oracle cards. For you, it may be tarot cards, it may be crystals, it may just be meditating. You don't need tools to connect to your guides. I just like to get more specific answers. So for me, the pendulum works. So whatever you're being called to do is what you need to listen to, but understand that the answers I get to some questions, or the answers that other readers get to some questions, may be different than the answers that you get. And that's okay. Nobody's wrong. We're all right. We're all right. Okay? We we have our own path, and we need to respect that, and just know that everything's happening for a reason. Don't sweat the details. That's the other thing, because I think there's just so much information coming from so many different sources that it's just too hard to button down the details, and what details are going to be the things that are going to save our democracy. I think they're all important, and I think they'll all hit at certain different times. And just be prepared that when they do hit, when this does come out, that there are going to be 45 supporters that are going to be very, very, very unhappy. Don't get angry. That's the other thing, is there's so many people that are angry with these supporters for believing what he says. And if we understand that cults are cults, cult leaders get to be cult leaders because they convince people. They're very good at conning and convincing people, and that the members of these cults are victims. So we have to remember that his supporters are victims. They don't know they are. They may never know that they are. Who knows? But we need to send them love and light. We need to not be mad at them. Be empathetic. Don't argue with them, because they know that they're right, and we know that we're right. And they feel the same way towards us that we feel towards them. They feel that we're in a cult and that we're being lied to. So it's not worth arguing with them about stuff. It's just trying to find common ground and respect for one another. And I've had to do that with a couple of friends of mine on Facebook in the last week, and just kind of let them know that you know your you know your life experiences have led you to where you're at. My life experiences have led me to where I'm at, and that at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want a good country to live in that we can leave for future generations. They want the same things that we do. They're just not seeing that they're being manipulated and that they're losing their rights by doing it. They don't see it. So, anyhow, that's what I have to say. So, I hope the pendulum part is very helpful for you. Create your own chart if you're using a pendulum. Watch other content creators and see what they're doing. Get ideas. Ask your guides. Always make sure that you ask permission. So if you want to tap into certain entities, you want to tap into your ancestors, you want to tap into the founding fathers, you want to tap into other people that have passed, always ask if they're willing to communicate, because we need to be respectful of each other. We need to be respectful of those that have passed. Okay? So have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you later.